Do you remember that time in our lives where we just ran on coffee as our fuel and the constant yawning reminders of our exhaustion?
Oh, man. I mean, coffee was my...
Well, we talked about getting it from an IV, right?
Oh, man. I mean, I had to have it. And I remember the drive, the need to zip.
Yes.
For speed. But now...
Oh, we are definitely in a slower pace of life. And for those of you who are listening who are...
taking their time with the intro?
Yeah, I know. This whole thing was like blah. Yeah, start that one over again. All right.
Do you remember when you couldn't wait to stay up all night, party with your friends, just to get up and go to work the next morning and drag through a hard 8-hour day, make your $1.75 an hour, whatever it is. I mean, $8.75, $10.75. Sorry.
Okay, start over again.
Remember the days we used to have sex for money and run around and do drugs and cocaine and drink whiskey all night?
Take 4.
I have to admit, sleep has always been a priority for me.
And for me, I remember actually telling you, you can sleep when you die.
And I remember trying to be cool.
And I was ready to go party. And we might have reevaluated things in our later years. So let's share 3 myths that we have reframed, rephrased, and gotten more intentional on for how we handle sleep in our home.
One more. How much sleep do you get every night?
I get a good amount now, but I remember a time I lived running on fumes.
You're like pudding peeling out of a bed, and you can't do anything until you have that delicious caramelly flavored coffee down the throat to wake you up, peel the eyeballs up, take a shower, and get rolling for the day to just face one more of them.
Yes. If you are ready to not have your coffee on an IV or to look at or experience what life can be like when you are well rested, then listen in as we share about the myths that we've thrown out the window for sleep and how you might be able to improve sleep in your home.
Mama says namaste. Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
Oh my gosh, I remember the amount of coffee we would live on in our household.
Oh, when we were dating. Even
Oh my
before
gosh.
children.
Yeah.
I was a coffee man.
Oh, we both were so big into coffee. Oh, the irony that my parents are tea drinkers, have never, ever liked coffee. My mom liked the smell, and that was it. And out of all 3 of her kids, all of us ended up becoming huge coffee aficionados. I mean, my oldest brother would roast his own coffee and really got into it.
Your middle brother worked for a coffee company.
Worked for a coffee company in Africa, out in Kenya, Dorman's Coffee. So we love coffee, and I will say Nathan and I still love a good cup of coffee.
But
It's
these
just
days,
not our fuel for life anymore.
well, life has changed, and I understand. Like there's a season for coffee, right? I dig that. I appreciate what coffee got me because coffee got me to here. But having gotten on the other side of coffee and kind of gotten on the other side of sleep deprivation and kind of gotten on the other side of kind of that emotional frenzy that I would put myself in with work and family, I can say that I was buzzing so much that I don't know that I really was able to feel anything.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I don't know, I didn't realize really at the time what I was missing and what it felt like to be, kind of in a comfortable shirt and jeans kind of feeling all the time,
That's so true. And that, I mean, it's a good analogy. The buzz of the coffee is kind of the buzz of the feeling of frenzy that we can oftentimes get ourselves
Buzz of the
trapped
deal.
in.
Like I remember the buzz of the deal, like the buzz of work. Like, when it's a similar feeling. I don't want to just put it all on coffee. There's other things that get us buzzing. But sometimes we can get so buzzing that, at least for me, I would forget about a lot of the important stuff. Just to the goal is the important stuff. Finish.
Yeah. Well, and so that opens up for these 3 myths that we kind of wanted to open up, and I'm going to change the order just because of the way we're talking about it.
Of course.
But that first one is of being busy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the buzz of busy. And so...
The busy, buzzy badge of honor.
Yeah. So the first myth that we want to kind of debunk is this: busy is a badge of honor. Busy is not a badge of honor.
It was.
Don't ever confuse activity with accomplishment.
Much better.
And I read an article a long time ago, and we did a whole, we've done several podcast episodes kind of with this topic too, about this burden of busy. Is your life busy or is your life full? I remember when we had busy lives and we had the buzz of activity constantly, whether that was through work, through the caffeine jar that we got ourselves through.
It was a baklava of things. It all depended on itself, really, when you look back at it. I mean, we had a dependency on, we had certain goals in life, and we had a certain vision for what success looked like, for what good family looked like. And so we started running towards that. And so we filled our lives with, good jobs and mortgages that required more jobs and kids that required more money and time. And then we started filling our lives with, extracurricular activities and the things that interest everyone. And pretty soon life was just full. There was no room. I mean, I remember when it felt like there was no room for anyone else or anything else. It was just get to the bedtime.
Oh, yeah. And for any families with young children at home, we feel you. We understand and we empathize that there are times where it does seem like it's survival mode. It's just getting through the day of trying to navigate, especially you add in, variables of illness and financial stressors. I mean, there's a lot of things.
We're assuming everything's going well.
Yeah.
We don't even plan for the bad days.
Right. And that those curveballs happen. I mean, sometimes daily. Sometimes you're hit with the huge crises or emergencies that completely shift everything and rock your whole world. So there are a lot of different variables in here. What we want to address, though, is that this stage of busy and this cloak of exhaustion you can wear as your identity. And we've been talking about the characters that we play, the identities that we kind of come into, and is it really what we want? Yeah. Are we tolerating something and we're living in something that isn't who we want anymore? And so when we talked about raising this question of what are you tolerating, and we've been asking this question in our communities, in the unschooling communities on Facebook, in the 48 Days Eagles community, even on my own personal Facebook page, I've been asking, what are you tolerating in your house and what things are coming back? And we've addressed at an earlier time, we addressed a lot about the bedtime battles we were dealing with young children and getting kids to bed. And I've talked a lot about how critical that is and how important it is for that sleep for their kids. But then what I got on the what are you tolerating question this time was also, my teenagers getting sleep. Mm-hmm. And then I look at that and I think, and how many parents are running on fumes? And they aren't getting the sleep. And so are you tolerating exhaustion in your home as the identity of the way things are? It is the way it is. And you don't remember that time of well-rested, because I did not know the well-rested me.
Yeah. I mean, imagine this. Imagine the only way you ever ate a potato was through eating a bag of chips.
Yeah.
right? And so that's
Fried. That's a really good analogy.
Just think of it. And so versus eating an entire baked potato that's cooked, like a whole baked potato.
Yeah.
And it's not been processed. It's not been, it is just a cooked itself. It's not sliced up. It's not fried. It's none of that. It's just baked. You feel totally different in your belly and satisfaction after you've eaten a potato that's been baked versus a bag of potato chips, which is arguably a potato.
Oh my gosh, that's so accurate. And such a great analogy being the fact that they're processed and fried and all of that stuff versus the genuine thing that's so actually rich and fulfilling.
If all you've been living in is baked potato is potato chip world, then yeah, you don't know what a baked potato feels like anymore.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, it just kind of, I was thinking about that when we were talking, and how that just cleared it up for me, because that was kind of the difference in feeling. Like, it was like I'd feel full for a minute, but then I would just feel depleted and greasy afterwards. Like I hadn't really accomplished what I wanted. There was still more. I still had this pull and this tug in me that I needed some new kind of nutrients. And I don't think we look at our life through the nutrients of our life. And sleep is a really vital part of that. Mm-hmm. And we get used to that depletion feeling. And that becomes our standard of excellence.
Right.
And we don't know what it feels like until we start something new. And, doing sleep is a great foundational start. That's a great cleanse because it gives your body a chance to recover. That's the question, is how often do we give ourselves permission to recover? And sleep is a piece of that.
Oh, that's so true. So yeah, number one is looking at that busyness as a badge of honor. And we don't want to get stuck so much in the busy that we lose the focus of why we're even doing it.
Yeah, why are you making money and having a family? Like what and how can that be done?
Right. And so as we address things in this in the podcast that we have over the years of what is your purpose for money? What is your family vision? What are your goals and dreams for your family? What's your purpose for bringing the money in? And is your life reflecting the life you dream of? Or are you so busy preparing for it, you never actually have the opportunity to experience it? So recognize when your life is full to a good point, and when you are just being busy just for busy's sake,
or when you're just filling life up.
Right. And I mean, and I so do know that experience of that baked potato full now, where I remember when we first got married, I really was struggling with TMJ, with jaw issues, due to clenching my jaw and carrying my stresses and not taking good care of my body. And so adding that TMJ on top of the fact that I was exhausted, man, I was yawning. And then I would oh my gosh, my jaw, it would hurt so bad to yawn. And I couldn't help from yawning because I was so tired. And so it was very much in my awareness about my level of exhaustion, because my TMJ was so bad that it literally hurt me to yawn. And so
what's your body telling you to do?
Oh my gosh,
it's all clenching up, trying to get you to relax.
Right. And when I started to do that, my TMJ issues are pretty non-existent at this point. I don't chew gum. I don't make it worse, but it's not like.
It's the secret to TMJ problems. Marry the right man.
Secret to TMJ problems. Pay attention to where your stressors are coming, and maybe it's a reminder for slowing down. And for me, it really was. It was me taking in more water, learning different ways of sleeping, and slowing my body down. And as I slowed down and allowed more space for recovery throughout my life, as opposed to hoping I'm going to get it at some point, the exhaustion went away. The TMJ issues went away. And so when we wake up in the morning, it is rare we have to set an alarm or drag ourselves out of bed. Now, your alarm goes off at 6 a.m., much to my chagrin, every morning.
That's just so that I don't have to wake you up.
It's a little watch thing, or your little thing beeps at us.
A gentle reminder.
But the truth of the matter is, if we were to wake up on our own naturally, that we naturally wake up usually by 7 at the latest. And that's for, we've had a late night. And but
which we are we talking about here?
I know. Okay, the girls and I would naturally still wake up around 7 o'clock. Nathan's
Me and
even earlier.
and my boys, we wake up at 5:30. There's 6.
You and your boy, you're right. The Jasper, the cat, the only other male in the household that can walk around is you two both are up super early.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, our rhythms have changed, and I recognize that I'm naturally waking up, not having to drag myself out, not having to wind myself down at night, but naturally being tired. And oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So let's go to the second myth there that I used to say to Nathan all the time, because my brother told me it all the time. My brother was a crazy night owl and loved nighttime. And I was his little shadow growing up in my teen years, especially. And so I wanted to follow him for everything. And his mantra was, you can sleep when you die.
Oh God, I tried so hard. I did. She'd say that to me, and I would try really hard to stay up, but I'm just unable to do it. I am a lark through and through. I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd still wake up at 5:30. And so I couldn't sleep when I died. I had to sleep. And I was afraid that I'd miss out on this fun person. So I tried very hard, but I failed.
So I would go full tilt late at night, but then I was always dragging myself out of bed in the morning. And so Nathan and I, when we got married, that was one of the many ways in our relationship that we looked at how can we work together? How can we do this and not just live two separate lives of energy? We had to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's really important. Paying attention to your natural rhythms in your body, and then looking at how you want to have a relationship with others. You have to take care of both of those.
Yeah, it's important to structure your life around kind of your natural rhythms. And if you're a morning person, then the night shift may not be your jam. It might be the way you think you need to get in the door, but my goodness, are you going to be your excellence at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, I remember reading a book on sleep, and the highest density of work time accidents happens between 3 and 6 in the morning. Mm-hmm. That's when just you as an animal, your reptilian brain is just like, you just are you're fried. And you can do that for so long. But what you have to understand is there's a price for that, and the recovery time. It's just like as you get older and you realize that, the mountain biking you did in your 20s is not the same kind of mountain biking you can do in your 40s because it feels different, takes you longer to recover, and so the same is true with your sleep. The longer you put that off, the harder it is to recover.
There are no rollover minutes in life, and so when I said you can sleep till you die, or when you die, I was really kind of doing a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going to die sooner so I can sleep because I really need to at this point. I'm holding it off, and I'm going to crash. And the other factor of this is not only that, when you are functioning in exhaustion mode, you are a danger to others around you. And so for you parents, I remember talking with a new mama who thought that, the best thing that she could do for her daughter is to be there constantly, 24/7. And she was running herself ragged, and I had to help her see that, like, her being on the road was a danger, not only to herself and to her daughter, but to every other person, because she was just as worse as somebody driving drunk or driving under another influence, just by the level of exhaustion. Your mind gets fuzzy. You get mentally cloudy when you are exhausted. Your body starts to shut down and go into survival mode. You are not thinking rationally. So oftentimes these exhausted parents are giving the worst of themselves to everyone,
right,
in their desire to be all for everyone.
And that's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. And so that's, as parents, I mean, we're not trying to give our kids, a third of us. We want them to have us wholly when we're there. But if you are exhausted and fried and thinking of a million other things and you can't get your head on straight, it becomes kind of a compounding effect. Both. Either you're going to compound more stress and more anxiety and less sleep, and your immune system is going to drop, and you're going to get sick more often. I mean, when was the last time we've been sick twice as a family in 6 years on the road? running in and out of zoos. I can think of 2 times that we've been sick. We caught the stomach flu in St. Louis, and then we got COVID in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the 2 times in 6 years that collectively we've been sick.
Yeah.
And so I remember, getting nailed to the wall by a cold or getting the flu when I was younger because I was frying myself constantly. I was not giving myself the recovery time. As parents, as employees, it's really valuable for you to show up fully recharged.
I remember being proud of the fact that we'd only get sick once a year. And that once a year was always the time of year that we were running the most ragged.
Yep.
I'm not going to blame it on winter time or something like that, but think about what happens. It's holiday obligation. It's running around being all things to all people, trying to get everything on that list accomplished in time. And all of those things of being, functioning more in reaction mode, not taking time for myself, things like that then end up compounding into each other.
Till you just feel this kind of general muck. And it's not until you've cleaned the muck out that you realize how fresh and it's like when you start working out. After you haven't worked out for a while, it feels good. Recovering from sleep, giving yourself permission to rest and recover. A lot of times that's what it is. I didn't give myself permission to rest. I remember when I first met you and your parents and they would take naps, I thought, my God, what a lazy bunch of people. I can't imagine taking a nap in the middle of the day. And now,
and you've also complained about our family being a bunch of doers that don't ever stay still.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And so, when you guys are on, you don't stop. But
but I think that's the magic is that, and that's the lesson learned that my family, my family that I come from, my family of origin, they all, all of our whole family has struggled with that drive and productivity being so high of not taking those opportunities for rest. And each person in the family has been checked on that and reevaluated, okay, how do I do this where I add more recharge in? So, I think that's something that, and every person gets this opportunity to be reminded about this over and over in their lives. It's not like now it's not like we've just flipped the switch and now we've gone from, we used to be tired and now we're never tired anymore. Yeah. We just look for ways to safeguard that.
I remember just real quick the laundry list of things that I had to do to wake up. I could not face my day fully if I had not had 2 cups of coffee and a shower. And that was kind of my magic sauce. And now all I have to do is wake up. It is really just a totally different feeling.
It is. How much do we just tell ourselves just because that's the way society has done it? Yeah, don't speak to me before coffee. How many shirts and mugs and everything else? But first, coffee or tea, whatever. We're dragging on coffee right now, obviously, and coffee's getting a bad rap in a lot of different places right now as people are seeing lots of alternatives other than coffee to drink. But what we're talking about is the drug of something else to make us run because we aren't able to run without it. And yes, presence, awareness, and intention is something that every single person in this whole wide world has the capability of. We have the opportunity to step into those. Yeah, and we often say we want, and then we look for the pill or the coffee or the whatever to get it.
Just so I don't have to change anything.
Right.
I want it.
Right.
For easy and free. But that's the thing is you have to adjust. You have to change. And once you start looking, like we record our sleep, and I get way more deep sleep than probably the average person.
Well, let's share so I looked up on
this thing called the internet.
On this thing called the intranet, I looked up the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and Sleep Research Society. Their recommendations for hours of sleep. So infant 4 to 12 months is going to be 12 to 16 hours per 24 hours. So again, thinking about these including your naps. A toddler 1 to 2 years is 11 to 14 hours. Preschool 3 to 5 years is 10 to 13 hours. And now we're getting up into the school age. So I was going through these with our girls. School age, 6 to 12 years is 9 to 12 hours per 24 hours. Now, it says per 24 hours. It's saying, either they're sleeping that good of an amount at home or at night, or they are still capable of taking naps. I mean, God forbid we take naps. It's okay to do that too. And so there are other ways other than just having it where we have to have, 12 hours set aside in the evening. But 9 to 12 hours is ideal for a 6 to 12-year-old. A teenager, 13 to 18 years, can use 8 to 10 hours per 24 hours. And then an adult, 18 to 60 years. They don't even have anything up for over 60. And more sleep.
All you do is sleep.
I think you go back then and you start going to the others. But anyway, adult, 18 to 60 years is 7 or more hours per night. 7 or more hours per night. Check and see what your sleep averages are. So many people have Apple Watches or Garmin watches, or I don't have to even use the brand, whatever, your smart watches, your smartphones, your smart everything that shows you what your sleep cycles are. Lots of people know at this point. When was the last time you paid attention to that?
Yeah. And that's, that's something that I remember kind of, being cool and it being a badge of honor to, I can live off of 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. That's my thing.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I don't think that's that's like having babies kind of sleep. I can't imagine doing that for years and years and years. That's just me. Now, I know that there's people that can live off of different levels of sleep, but I'd really like to ask yourself. I mean, I've worked with some people that quote unquote can operate on 4 hours of sleep. Yeah, you can operate, but are you pleasant to be around or functioning beyond just here, take this? I mean, is the quality of your life where you want it to be? Do you feel fulfilled and excited about waking up after your 4-hour nap?
Yeah.
I mean, those are the questions that I would ask them. Yeah, I'm great. Then, do your thing. But if you are complaining throughout the day, the odds are you're not getting enough sleep.
Right.
If you're a grump, odds are you're not getting enough sleep.
Right. Yeah, and the third myth is that the early bird always gets the worm. It's not about just being the earliest. It's not about, in order for your magic answer is not if you go to bed at 9 o'clock and you wake up at 6 o'clock that your life will be happy. We can't say that
true.
for you.
I'd say that's true for me.
Now, for Nathan, on the flip side, this is a pretty good routine. We like this one. But when it comes to who you are, we recognize things are different. And that's something that was really eye-opening to me. When I started to, I actually took a course called Moon Daughters that I went through in kind of understanding and learning about our female cycles and how I can navigate that with my daughters. And as I learned about my own cycles and my own natural rhythms, the way my body responds through menstruation and through life functions, and seeing how male bodies do as well in different at different stages and times than females, how can we make this work for us? And so it introduced the concept of biohacking. And if you search biohacking, you will find all kinds of information. And some people go super, super serious down this. The Cliff's Notes version, though, is that it's basically hacking into your natural biology to get your best productivity. And so it's me looking at my natural rhythms and cycles as a female through menstruation and recognizing that there is a time, a phase in my cycle where I am super productive. And it's a great week for getting things done, and it's a great week to check things off. There is also a time in my cycle where I am way more introspective. I'm more exhausted, I'm more tired and need more sleep, but I also have the opportunity to go a lot more deep in my thinking and my intuition during this time. How can I really take advantage of that and capitalize that on a positive way? We recognize that our bodies, we naturally tend to thrive at a certain time. And you'll hear people talk about this with exercise. What is your best time for exercise? It's not always in the morning. Nathan, you referenced you were a lark. You are definitely a morning person and thrive in the morning time. I can be a little bit adaptable on both. There are times I have adapted to be way more of a lark, but my natural rhythm would have been way more at night. And I would have been going more toward the nighttime at one point in my life.
Yeah, says the woman who I always hear snoring before me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because when I shifted my cycle to being more awake, again, there's two parts to this. It's understanding who I am, and it's also understanding what relationship we want to have together.
Yeah.
So we came to an agreement, on what we wanted. And I wanted more of my day of activity, which meant that it didn't make sense for me to stay up until 11 at night when Nathan's crashing by 9:30 and I'm up without him, and I'm starting to create a life beyond him in the evenings, and he's got a life beyond me in the mornings, and then we're trying to connect. We wanted to figure out a way to make things work together. So we worked at cycles that that kind of match who we are.
Yeah.
So I while I can be a night owl, I also recognize the more that I've gotten in tune with just having good sleep, by 10 o'clock, I'm exhausted because I've been up since 7.
You're not challenging your body's natural rhythms. I mean, I would argue that in your teens and 20s, your body was saying, hey, it's time for bed. But your mind was saying, but there's a party happening right now.
That's
or
true.
they're doing this and I want to be there. Or I'm having a conversation that I care about and I'll go until 2 o'clock to see it through.
Yeah.
I would not. I'd say, well, we'll do this in the morning. Bye.
Yeah, no, and I never did. I always wanted to not miss out on anything.
Yeah,
So
I knew the life was like a river. It'd keep on flowing the next day. It's not a finite thing. But I mean, I think that's part of the view also is, you have to understand that you got to replenish yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And this is a foundational way to take care of yourself. And it's an easy badge and it's an easy place to ignore.
Yeah.
Because everything in this world is trying to distract you from laying your head on that pillow. The phone, your kids, everything. Television, internet, all that's interesting. To your point.
Yeah.
You can lay awake wondering what everybody else is doing, but oh my gosh, getting a good night's sleep and a consistent good night's sleep has been magic in and allowed us to be present in a way that I really was never present before.
Right. And so when we look at getting good sleep, it's not just about, making yourself get up at the earliest crack of dawn, or there's this perfect sleep schedule for everybody, but it's recognizing and knowing in your body, when do you feel the most well rested? I mean, go back and do an inventory in your life. When have you felt well rested, and what all was adding to that? What things maybe were you letting go of that you weren't holding on to with worries? Maybe you were making yourself, shifting a habit. It doesn't mean that I just have to pay attention to when I naturally wake up. No, I had to force myself for quite some time. I shifted my habits intentionally, and we had to have an alarm to get me out of bed. And I had to really focus on how to wind myself down at night. Well, having kids is a pretty easy way to make sure you're tired at night.
You really know how to deal with 2 years of that.
Yeah, but get intentional about making space for sleep, because sleep is what is going to help you be better in so many other aspects.
Like as an example of this is when we had little kids, we had a 7 to 7 rule. That gave 12 hours of sleep. It gave us a break. It gave us an opportunity to refresh ourselves and just spend some time and recoup. And it gave the girls time to have their alone time. And most of the time they just fall asleep and sleep for 10 or 12 hours. Mm-hmm. So there's little things that you can do. I think the key is to not let life run you, but you run your life. You take charge of how you want to feel. And if you want to wake up feeling like a greasy bag of potato chips, and that's fine. Wake up heavy and greasy. If you want to wake up light and fresh and feel like a cup of fruit, come on. It's really nice to get a good night's sleep. Mm-hmm. Both can function in this world. And I would argue the quality of life is very, very different. And that's my challenge, is to try a new perspective. We do that with our girls too. It's just, you don't have to do it forever. You can go right back. But I challenge you to try something for a month and see how that feels. Getting 8 hours of sleep every night and making that an intention for 30 days. Mm-hmm.
And for everybody with a teenager who is saying, well, it's my teenager that's the issue. Well, number one is they see what they see, they do. So are you reflecting good sleep habits in your home, or are they just mirroring you? We know 150% that our children are glued to technology when we are glued to technology.
If we're on the phones, they find something.
Right. And our struggles with screen time, for example, is very much an indicator of how it's going to be for the rest of the family. Because no screen is going to come into the home that we haven't paid for. And we're not paying for all of the aspects of it. And so that, we have rights in that.
It's not like they sneak in like a roach.
Right. So look at what habits can help to safeguard you so that you can improve your sleep. You can't just decide I want to sleep more and everybody in the house is super loud. Nobody acknowledges it. And you're constantly in reaction mode. We have to set the stage for success. So if sleep is important, this is an opportunity for your whole family to discuss why is sleep important. We all show up in a very different way when we are well rested. And you're going to have the example of both. You're going to need to look for where is it that your family can understand so it becomes personal to them, what it feels like when everybody is running on fumes versus what it feels like when you are well rested. Look at being consistent with your time, going to bed at the same time each night, and getting up at the same time in the morning, including the weekends. You cannot roll over. Like, it's not like you can do the rollover thing where on the weekends.
Catch up on the weekends.
Yeah, you sleep all weekend, and then you think that that's going to cover you for a week of...
We did that in college, right?
The fumes running. Oh, man.
That was the plan anyway.
Well, and to your
Until the
point...
night happened.
I was going to say, to your point earlier, though, how often were we sick?
All the time.
Yeah, there was a lot more sickness that comes when you don't, because again, your body is going to force rest. If you don't allow for it, you're going to be forced to do it. And that's why for us, our number one answer, anytime we get sick, very first thing we do, sleep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. As much sleep as you want, anytime you need it, do it. We allow for rest as our number one healer for illness, because so often it's prompted by lack of rest.
It's just like when you have a headache, you think that, taking the aspirin cures it. Usually it's drinking that glass of water that you really needed to drink.
Right.
Is what's doing it. And
other things you can do is making sure that you are setting the stage for relaxation and sleep at night. So make sure that your bedrooms, your sleeping areas, where your teens are, that they are relaxing, quiet, dark, and a comfortable temperature. If it is too hot in a room, it is really hard to sleep. I know I cannot sleep with it being too hot. I typically have to have some form of air blowing on me. I need lots of ventilation. I know that I sleep way better if I have cooler temperatures and airflow than if I sleep with hot temperatures. So I'm going to, as much as I can, try to make sure that I allow for that, knowing that my quality of sleep is going to be much better.
what in the world would you do in the wild?
I would be looking for where the breeze is.
You living by the beach?
Staying in the breeze, yes. Also, making sure that you're removing all electronic devices from your bedroom. I have been woken up from my little jetpack blinking off and on in my room where I've forgotten to
And how'd that
hide
thing
it.
crawl into your room like that
man.
and blink?
Right, because I had it hooked on the charger, and it can be so jarring to have electric devices that are blinking and flashing alerts and things like that in bed, not to mention the temptation of having all of those devices and how quickly it is to get lost in scrolling through your feeds or the news or watching shows or anything else.
But what if I miss an emergency?
It'll still be there when you wake up.
Yeah. Don't you agree?
Yes.
But the only
does.
argument I could think of, like I remember I could think of, what if something happens? Well,
Yeah.
they'll either get a hold of you, or it'll still be there when you wake up. I promise.
Yeah.
It's
And
hard. It's a
we
hard
have
pill to swallow, but
right. We have to understand that there was a time in our lives where we were not all accessible all the time, and it's not going to be the end of the world for you to have the windows of opportunity for sleep and what it is that you are able to show up for afterward.
it drives Ashley nuts all the time. But I'll go on walks without my phone quite a bit, just so that nothing can touch me, and I don't touch it. Because if I have a moment, sometimes if it's boring or there's nothing happening, I'll just look to see if there's anything interesting in that little window in my pocket.
We adults need to get used to boredom just as much as our kids, if not more than
Yeah.
our kids do.
Yeah,
Our
that's
kids are oftentimes way more able to handle boredom and downtimes than us adults do. All right. So another thing, making sure that you're fostering a good sleep environment by having it dark and cool and free from distractions so that you really can stay focused on sleep. Make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing right before bed. We have consistently taken breaks from watching shows at night because if we get into a habit of TV or screens at night, it becomes harder for the wind down and the transition time.
A little grumpier the next day.
And grumpier. Yeah, we have just found that we tend to be grumpy when we've been sitting and watching a screen.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but it's consistent. It's been consistently. They will fight with each other more if we have television, if we watch, especially at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so we look at, other times for watching TV or choosing not to and eliminating it entirely. Make sure that you're paying attention to what meals, what caffeine, what alcohol, what shows, all of these things that you're taking in right before bed. And consider doing, having some sacred hours, some hours before bedtime that are wind down good quality. What if you were to simply take the beginning hour of your day and the last hour of your day, and those 2 hours of your day are screen-free, distraction-free, opportunities for you to be fully present.
Meditate, stretch, make love, whatever
maybe
you
you
want.
Maybe you don't have the time for all of it, because I know that those of you running around with, your crazy hectic schedules and everything else, I don't have the time to do it.
50% of divorces are from cheating on each other. If you can squirrel away 30, 45 minutes with somebody to make love, you can do it by yourself. I mean, you can hang out. You can squirrel away 30, 45 minutes by yourself.
That is true. I mean, that is the truth of it. You think about the level of affairs that happen, of time spent on TV screens and devices. I mean, there are so many times where we use our time for something that we've just prioritized. When you prioritize it, you make it work in your schedule.
Take responsibility for the taste in your mouth.
Right.
And know that you can change it.
Right. But I mean, even in the morning time, I mean, there is a difference in your connection and your awareness for the day. If you are waking up in the morning and you're getting dressed, you're cleaning up the house, you are getting your kids ready for the day, you're having a conversation, and you're getting out the door. That whole thing can be 2 complete opposite experiences if you have a device in your hand.
Yeah, I mean,
or if you have a device available.
You can start doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Y'all are great. You're all reading. And then Thursday, one of you has a phone in your hand. And you're just cruising innocently, waiting for the other, just chilling, just cruising. And that's usually me. And Ashley will come and put a book in my hand as a gentle reminder to, hey, this is what we're doing. And I just take it as, yep, you're exactly right. That's what we agreed to. Boom.
Yep, because Nathan and I have struggled with this because, again, at this being on the road and traveling, us wanting to know, be in the loop for what's going on in the world and checking the news, making sure we know what the weather is, who texted us last night, any of that stuff.
Lots of justifications to need to check in.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I learned when I was in real estate, I would... everybody's problems become your problems, and they would throw them on you like napalm and say, I need you to help me put this out right now. And I had a coach that said, hey, just try blocking yourself out and disappearing, because you can do it for a movie. You'll go to a movie for 3 hours, give yourself 3 hours, and then fix those things and see what happens. And you know what ended up happening? 85% of those problems fixed themselves before I got a chance to get there. And the ones that were still burning, I could put out very quickly, and it did not change. I didn't lose a relationship. Nothing happened differently.
Oh, yeah, something major happened differently.
I took control of my life.
Exactly.
And you can do the same thing. We all have a choice. I mean, that's the thing is, if you don't like the way it tastes, just start playing with stuff. Just try. That's the thing is, it doesn't have to be forever. You don't have to make this big announcement and, we're not going to do that. We're going to all get 8 hours of sleep now. No, just try to measure your sleep. Pay attention to your sleep. Pay attention. How do you feel after a weekend where you've gotten fully rested versus Wednesday? How can you replicate that feeling during the week? What are some things that you're doing that you can eliminate that just add stress to your life that's unnecessary? Those little things add up. We don't realize how it's like calories, and the next thing you know, you got, 20 pounds on you didn't know it came from.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff just happens. So if you take control of your life, you make some decisions, you put some platforms in there, you say, here's where I want to be and here's how I'm going to get there, and just start trying.
That's right. So give yourself permission to rest so that you can fully show up in this world. Start where you are. Maybe that is simply bringing awareness this week to what's going on, doing a sleep inventory, paying attention to how much your family is getting sleep. And maybe that's it right now, is simply taking inventory and bringing awareness. I mean, that's the first step. What you aren't aware of, you can't really work on. So be aware of what's working and what's not, and pay attention to how you're feeling, when you're feeling well rested and when you aren't. And I would challenge you to identify that this week. Identify when you feel really good and well rested. When is it? If it's not there at all, clearly you know that you've got some things to work on. And do this with your kids. Ask your kids and help them to be able to identify. Are you helping to set them up for positive sleep habits?
Have you talked to your kids about sleep habits?
Have you talked about the why for going to bed, or is it just the because I said so? It's the best teacher for my kids has been when they're living by example. And so when they see us sleep and how recharged and revitalized we are, they follow that lead.
I mean, I still love the idea of doing a challenge where everybody, for a week tries to, get 8 hours of sleep or get as close to it, and then just talk about how you feel at the end. Doesn't mean you have to do it forever. It's just, is it worth keeping? I mean, we did that with coffee. When I stopped drinking coffee, since I was 17, 18 until 42, I had never given my body permission to feel what it felt like to wake up in the morning without it. So I didn't have any idea. I was scared of what life would be like without it. I was afraid I'd have a headache and be unfunctional. I was afraid I would not be able to wake up to the day and I would be dead to the world. And if that's you, call in a sick day. Call in a couple of sick days. Assume you have the flu. Your body has to recover from what you've been doing to it. But once you get to the other side of that, it is very different. It's to the point where I've not need to go back. I can have a cup of coffee if I feel like I need it, but I really don't enjoy who I was when I was drinking coffee consistently and hardcore to keep myself going and just flowing.
Right, we've just switched for coffee as a treat versus coffee as our fuel.
Yeah.
Right. So look at what you're using as your fuel to keep you going. If your fuel is caffeine, cigarettes,
alcohol,
screens,
pills,
smartphones, whatever. If those are the things that are your fuel you're getting dependent on in order to keep you functioning, pay attention to that, because you have all the fuel you need within you when you pay attention to your body and to recharging it and keeping it going. I mean, pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you what it needs, whether it's craving the water, that headache that you got because you're dehydrated, or craving that healthy food because you've been eating the junk food. And we have kids after Halloween that go, can we have a salad? Because they know their body is needing it, and there's a hankering for it. And so pay attention to those desires. There are a lot of really good, wonderful things we can do by responding and reacting, as much as I talk about being intentional, responding and reacting to what we feel in our own bodies. And giving space for our bodies to talk and our bodies to say what we need. And we are able to deepen our relationships, further our stretch, our reach, and our impact, be more successful, and support others as we are being good stewards and loving ourselves and supporting ourselves in the process. So, yes, give yourself that love and support so that you can go on and then give it to your family, who then creates that ripple effect that goes beyond there. And we can all celebrate how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your heart. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.